In today's show, the Blazers lose again, this time to the Suns in Phoenix. But Deandre Ayton finds his rhythm, Malcolm Brogdon is back, and maybe Scoot Henderson is next. Welcome to Locked On Blazers. Let's get into it.
You are Locked On Trailblazers, your daily Portland Trailblazers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What up, world? It's your past first point guard and Trailblazers reporter Mike Richmond. You are listening to another episode of Locked On Blazers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, available wherever you get podcasts and also on YouTube. Thanks for making this show your first listen, coming at you every single weekday, Monday through Friday. So make it a part of your daily routine. Make it your first listen. Tell your friends to do the same. As Locked On Blazers, your team every day. In today's show, we're recapping the Blazers' loss to the Suns in Phoenix. They go to the desert and lose yet again. The losses are piling up. It's kind of what you thought it would be like for this team, but at least this one was competitive. Want to talk about that game. Want to talk about a little bit of news on Scoot Henderson. Malcolm Brogdon returned after a 5-game absence, and the Blazers getting closer to whole, and they're not going to be whole, I guess, this season because Rob Williams is out for the year, but getting closer to healthier or like their best potential health they could have at this point. And that's going to be valuable. I want to talk about that. And I want to talk about Deandre Ayton and a little bit about Shaedon Sharpe. I thought DA played really well, and Shaedon Sharpe continued to struggle. Some numbers to know behind the sort of Sharpe slump that he's in. But let's do what we do. Here to open the show is our fastest recap in the West. Blazers lose 120-107 at the Footprint Center in Phoenix. They were down 21-34 after one and down 17 early in the second quarter. It looked like they were headed for another tough one. But they ripped off a 21-4 run, tied the game at 42, and found themselves only down 51-56 at the break. Duop Reith had 10 points in 8 minutes in the second quarter. Duop Reith didn't work all this time to not shoot it. He didn't spend 27 years of his life, moving all over the world and grinding to make the league to not shoot it. My man's going to shoot it when he's in there. Sometimes it goes in 10 points in 8 minutes for WAP in that second quarter as the Blazers made it a game, and they hung in it. Down 82-94 after 3 quarters. You know, the Suns were better in the first 3 quarters. Blazers just didn't really have an answer for the Suns' firepower all night. Like that's the real truth of it. But like they have done for most of the season, they hung in the game. Blazers hung in the game. They were, ripped off an 11-0 run to close the third and open the fourth quarter, cut the lead to 7. Suns respond, push it back to 16. Blazers rip off a 7-0 run, make it a 9-point game. 113-104, have 2 chances, down 9 with the ball. Both broken plays. They just don't get into their offense. It happens. It happens a lot with this team. I don't think if Devin Booker blows up your initial screen, it's like some terrible sign that your team's bad and poorly coached. But when it happens a couple times in a row, down 9, it's a little bit frustrating, and that's what it was. Jeremy Grant misses kind of a forced 3, and then they had another bucket late. Had another late clock shot they had to take that they probably didn't want. 9-point game with under 4 to go with the ball. They don't really have the guns to make a crazy big comeback. Like they just don't have the shooting, and they don't have the sort of offensive dynamic to really pull it off. But they hung in the game. Don't get closer than that 9 points with under 4 in the ball twice, and they lose 120-107. That's your fastest recap in the West. Jeremy Grant led the way, 26 points, 8 of 19 from the floor, 5 of 8 from 3, 5 of 6 from the free throw line to go along with 4 boards and 6 assists. When Jeremy Grant makes threes and passes the ball, he kind of drives wildly into the paint and then kicks it back out. That's a Jeremy Grant assist. But he had a late feed to Shaedon Sharpe, actually the play that cut it to 9. He drove, Sharpe timed to cut well, and Jeremy Grant kind of dropped it off to him for a dunk. When Jeremy Grant makes threes and passes the ball, he's just a really good player. I think I don't know if I actually think this because I think he's been frustrating a little bit to watch. Like I haven't enjoyed his game aesthetically, but I think he's been the Blazers' best player. He was certainly their best player tonight, 26 points, 4 boards, 6 assists. Malcolm Brogdon returned after a 5-game absence, finished with 19 points and 5 dimes. More on him in a moment, but just having someone else who can score is really valuable. Deandre Ayton, we're going to talk about him a bunch in today's show. 18 points, 8 rebounds, 9 of 14 from the floor, didn't get to the free throw line. Shaedon Sharpe struggled, 10 points on 3 of 13 shooting. Tamani Kamara, 7. Skylar Mays, 6 off the bench. Jabari Walker, 8. Duop 10 points in 8 minutes, finished with 10 points in the game. Blazers played the final minute 39 of garbage time, and Chris Murray hit a 3-pointer. It's pretty fun. On the other side, Kevin Durant, 31, 4 boards, 9 assists, 28 and 6 assists for Devin Booker. Old friend Yusuf Nurkic, 18 points and 12 boards. Eric Gordon starting in place of injured Brad Beal, who's out for several weeks, finished with 10. Old friend is your little 13 off the bench. Old friend Drew Eubanks, 7 points off the bench. The Suns their stars kind of took over this game. Kevin Durant started super hot and looked like he was going to put the game away, but the Blazers came back behind WAP. And Malcolm Brogdon had a really nice second quarter as well. They combined for 21 of the Blazers' 30 in the second quarter. But Blazers just didn't really have a way to slow down Kevin Durant. And then late in the third quarter, when Devin Booker sits, they start setting double teams, and they just ate the double teams up. Kevin Durant's a pretty good passer. I thought Nurk played well out of those double teams. Sometimes the NBA is simple. If you got the best player, you're going to win. Suns had the 2 best players. They won. I don't think that's I think that might be too simplistic, but sometimes it is that easy. But Deandre Ayton had a really nice game against his former team. I think Malcolm Brogdon helps back now that he's back, and I think the good news is that Scoot Henderson appears to be very close to returning. Let's talk about all that. Let's talk about DA finding his rhythm, how the Blazers went about kind of getting him in rhythm and then abandoning him late in the game, as they typically do, how Malcolm Brogdon benefits this team, and the latest on Scoot Henderson, who is nearing a return. That's what we'll do in the second segment. Before we do that, though, I want to tell you all about eBay Motors. eBay Motors knows about winning. They do. They know what it takes to win. They know what it takes to build a championship team. You know who else knows how to build a championship team? It's my man Josh Lloyd, the host of Locked On Fantasy Basketball. Each week is going to bring you the best fantasy picks all season long. Whether you're preparing for a daily draft as a DFS player, or you're just scouring the waiver wire as a season-long fantasy player like your boy here, every week I'm going to provide you with the players that are guaranteed to fit your roster. Let's see who Josh has picked on this week's eBay's Guaranteed Fit Fantasy Players of the Week. He's got a couple names here. Kyle Anderson, who's going to be playing for the Minnesota Timberwolves now that Jaden McDaniels is out for a week. Santi Aldama, the banged-up Memphis Grizzlies, now missing Marcus Smart for a few weeks. You know what Santi Aldama's doing? He's shooting 25 times a game. Go get him on your fantasy team if he's still available. Just the volume of shots Santi Aldama is getting is going to be worth it. Jaden Ivey back in the lineup after spending a lot of time coming off the bench for the Pistons, but now he's back in the starting spot. That's intriguing. He's talented. He's going to, he's playing more. Go get him. Alex Caruso has been starting for the Bulls. He's an appealing fantasy option. He gets steals when he takes 3-pointers. Take them when you're open, Alex. When he takes them, he can really score. Or can really shoot from the corners, if nothing else. And he's going to rack up your defensive playmaking numbers. And someone you saw tonight for the Suns, Eric Gordon. Bradley Beal's out for a few weeks. Gordon's going to be in the starting lineup. He can be a solid fantasy player. Those are Josh's picks for this week. Listen, why not check out eBay Motors? Because they know about Perfect Fit. And with over 122 million parts for your ride or die, you can make sure your ride stays running smoothly. Whether you need brake kits, LED headlights, roof racks, bumpers, whatever your baby needs, eBay Motors has it. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, it's guaranteed to fit your ride the first time, every time, or your money back. Plus, at those prices, You're burning rubber, not cash, baby. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. eBay Guaranteed Fit, only available to U.S. customers. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. All right. Deandre Ayton got a touch to begin the game. The Blazers have finally been giving him the Yusuf Nurkic memorial. Let him shoot it first. Giving him a touch right at the beginning of the game. Turn the ball over. They ran a little, they've been running this sort of misdirection, cross pin down stuff for him. And by that, misdirection is maybe the wrong word, but he'll stand on the opposite side, the weak side from the ball. Then the point guard will, throw it to the far wing and then go down and set a little screen for him, a pin down screen, and Deandre will flash from the block up to the middle of the court at the foul line. That's where he wants to catch it, give him room to catch it. Here's the thing, though, is Yusuf Nurkic knew about that, and he knocked the ball out of his hands. But the Blazers have been going to Deandre early. It's clearly, it's frustrating early in the season. It's like they used to do that for Yusuf Nurkic all the time last year. He would get the first touch of every single game. It's like, why can't DA just get that? Like, when they were like, it was always bizarre to me over the first 4, 5, 7 games. It's like, why not that? But it's been consistent over the last five or so games. DA's getting touches early. The first plays are called for DA. It is clear the coaching staff has put an emphasis on it. Do the Blazers always run it well? No. Does DA sometimes get his pocket picked by Yusuf Nurkic to begin the game? Yeah, sometimes, but when your team like the Blazers, process more important than results, the process of trying to get Deandre Ayton more touches is valuable, and they've been doing it. Then, the next time they come down, Shaedon Sharpe takes a three from the top of the key, and Deandre Ayton fights for an offensive rebound, grabs it, dribbles maybe 250 million times, took a lot of dribbles to get himself free into his right hand against Yusuf Nurkic, but he beats him. He just it wasn't like he overpowered him. He really just had great balance, right? Like he didn't knock Nurk off his spot. He more just like every time Nurk lunged for the ball or tried to push him off the spot, DA kept his balance, got to his right hand, his preferred right hand, and scored. And then the Blazers didn't really go back to him in the post. Even on that play, they didn't go to him in the post. He's not getting a lot of post-ups. It's clear his comfort zone is that foul line area. It's where he's best at. And because of their lack of shooting, they're not comfortable as a coaching staff, as a team, whatever it might be, of giving him straight post-ups. Like, there's not going to be direct fives in your playbook. It's not just, there just aren't direct post-ups. He's not a great passer. He's more right-handed than I thought he was. Honestly, my perception of Deandre Ayton before he was a Portland Trailblazer is that he was comfortable using both hands, right hand or left hand. I don't see him use his left hand enough. Not enough. I don't know if I should be the one to, like, the sheriff of left-handed jump hooks, but like, he wants to get to his right hand, and sometimes he takes harder shots because he wants to get to his right hand. Plenty of players are dominant hand, like favor the dominant hand pretty heavily, but DeAndre is certainly one of them. But they went and got him shots in the mid-range. That's how they got him going in this game, is that they ran action for him to get him in the mid-range, or really what they did well was when Yusuf Nurkic was playing drop coverage, he's dropped way back on pick and rolls. Both point guards, Malcolm Brogdon and Skylar Mays, did a good job of attacking off the dribble on pick and rolls and engaging their man who's trying to get back to the ball, and then finding DeAndre Ayton in the pocket and getting him jumpers. Ayton hesitated a few times and took harder ones than he needed to, but in general, they got him mid-range jumpers. He took 11 shots in the first half. That's a great number. 7 of 11, 14 points, 6 rebounds at halftime. Blazers are in the game, and Ayton just finding his space matters. And then he didn't shoot in the fourth quarter, played 6 minutes and didn't shoot. Some of that is because he's playing with Skylar Mays, and Malcolm Brogdon's threat as a driver and a pull-up shooter opens up more in pick and rolls. Shaedon Sharpe can't do it as well either, because he can't dribble or pass nearly as well as the other 2 point guards, so he's just not going to free up DA. And when you show hard and hedge against Shaedon Sharpe, he doesn't get the ball out fast enough. He doesn't get it out on time. Certainly Shaedon Sharpe is a much better passer than he's ever been, but he's not the thing that's going to unlock DA. Unfortunately, Malcolm Brogdon seems to be a little bit better at it because of his threat to score, but the Blazers just didn't get to it. They didn't get back to those attack. I thought Nurk did a better job of not dropping too far back, knowing that DA wanted to catch in the mid-range and shoot. But no shots in the fourth quarter is a little bit frustrating. I will say, in general, I think you're starting to see what the Blazers want to do with DA, what they want to do with him. They want him to shoot. They want him to shoot middies. They don't love him as a post-up guy, and they want him to work hard and get offensive rebounds. In a couple of his buckets, he was there. He was good in this game. And I don't mean it wasn't good. I'm just kind of obsessed with how they use him because he has the lowest usage of his career with the Blazers. He's just not getting opportunities. Some of that is the function of his teammates and coworkers, and some of that is that I think the coaching staff has done a pretty bad job of integrating him and figuring out how it works. They're doing a better job as of late. It's early. It's a process. They're banged up. All of those things, right? It's both. But I am legitimately kind of obsessed with how they use Deandre Ayton. So I will continue to track it. This was a good one. And even in a good game where they this is how we're going to use him. We're going to go to him early. We're going to get him in a rhythm. He's going to have a really nice game. They forgot about him in the fourth quarter. Some of that is I just don't think they have pet actions to get him into what he needs to get into. And some of that was because Malcolm Brogdon was on a minutes restriction. Pretty obviously, he only played 24 minutes and 54 seconds. I'm going to guess he was on a 25-minute restriction, and Skylar Mays played down the stretch. And teams go under on Skylar Mays pick and rolls. Watch them. They go under on Skylar Mays pick and rolls. If you go under pick and rolls, what are you going to do? There's where it's Ayton's not going to roll to the rim super hard. And if he does roll to the rim super hard and you go under, there's no pass. There's no angle. It's easy to guard. He needs to kind of stay up on teams that go under and re-screen and get into it. That's probably the best way to handle it. Non-shooting guards are hurting Deandre Ayton, and the Blazers' kind of lack of other plan have hurt him too a little bit. Okay, Malcolm Brogdon back. He helps. 19 and 5, that speaks for itself. Didn't shoot great, 6 of 14 from the floor, but just someone who can dribble and get himself into the paint from the 3-point line to the rim of his own accord by dribbling really helps. The playmaking helps. The threat of shooting helps. He's 4 of 5 from 3. He shot it well. It's just they're still probably going to be one of the worst offenses in the league because they just don't have shooters. They just don't. Those gentlemen aren't on the roster. But they're so much more functional. I think Skylar Mays has kind of been. Not exposed isn't the right word, but he's just overextended as a 30-some minute a night starting point guard in the league. It's not what he is. He doesn't have it's not what he is. Malcolm Brogdon's going to help, and he's not the only point guard that's coming back. He's back after 5-game absence, and today Scoot Henderson practiced with the G League team. Scoot Henderson was assigned to the G League team around noon. There was some speculation. It's well, they don't play until Friday. Is he going to be on the remix Friday? Am I going to the remix game? No, he was reassigned, released from the remix. If you're on the NBA team, you can go down as many times as you want. There's no rules. So assigned at noon, recalled at 2:15. He spent 2 hours and 15 minutes on the remix, or put another way, he practiced with the G League team. That's a good sign, though. It's a good sign. When the Blazers gave a estimate of his return, the early window of his return, 2 weeks, basically exactly, is this weekend, and 3 weeks would be the following weekend. Kind of seems like the early end, right? The Blazers play Wednesday evening back home in Portland against the Utah Jazz. Certainly Scoot Henderson could play in that game. I think it's more likely he plays over the weekends when the Blazers begin a road trip in Milwaukee on Sunday afternoon. We shall see. Certainly he could play Wednesday. If nothing else, might not even play Sunday, right? Who knows? And because that's the first of a back-to-back game. So maybe he comes back Monday. But regardless of when, whether it's Wednesday, Sunday, Monday, or beyond, he's close. And he's close, and it seems like he's going to be on the early end of his timeline. And listen, Portland's not very good. They're losing, every night that they play for weeks on end. I've been here talking about it. I remember. But just getting Scoot back is going to be valuable, because seeing him play, give me Scoot Henderson struggling over Skylar Mays struggling. The whole point of this team is to figure out, the whole point of this year is to figure out what kind of what Scoot is, and if he can be the guy, or he's a guy, or he's not that, or or he's just farther away than you think. Like that data collection, that observation, all of just the minutes and the reps. Let's get back to having Scoot Henderson get reps. They were getting more positive. His last couple games were certainly better than his first couple games. So let's get him back and get him positive. I think that's a key. That's a key for just like for enjoyment of viewership. That's going to be huge. I want to talk a little about Shaedon Sharpe. He's struggling, and he had such a promising start to the season. I don't think anything has, drastically changed other than maybe he's not as healthy as he was. But I want to talk a little about what I've observed of his struggles to close the show and then look ahead to the game against the Jazz. That's what we will do. That's what we will do to close the show. But first, let's talk about FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. Listen, it's football season. We're in the back half of football season, and FanDuel is an official sponsor of the NFL, and they want to give you $150. So all you got to do is, if you're a first-time user, go to FanDuel.com/LockedOn. Sign up, get an account, then place $5 on the money line, any money line bet. So that's a team to outright win. Pick the Blazers to beat the Jazz. You listen to Wednesday, November's 22nd show. Blazers host the Jazz tonight, second night of a back-to-back. Bet with your heart. Blazers beat the Jazz. Maybe bet with your brain, second night of back-to-back. We'll see. If you win, whoever you pick, whatever it might be, you get $150 to play with. And then you can bet on anything you want, from spreads to player props to over-unders. I'm going to throw you one here. This is not betting advice. This is an interesting bet that you could wager on once you get your $150. You can bet on first bucket in NBA games. First bucket in NBA games. You know who might score the first bucket in tomorrow night's game is Deandre Ayton, because they're giving him a chance basically to start every single game. So go to FanDuel.com/LockedOn. Sign up for an account. Have fun. You got NFL games starting Thursday, and then all weekend. You got NBA games every night. Check it out. It's FanDuel, official partner of the NFL. Still a pass first point guard. I'm still Mike Richmond. You are still listening to Locked On Blazers. I told you I'm kind of obsessed with how the Blazers use Deandre Ayton. It is... Part of it is like, why'd you trade for this dude? Part of it is like, is this staff capable of game planning for someone with flaws? Some of it is like, is Deandre Ayton, I was kind of out on Ayton at the beginning of the trade saga, and then I was back in on him. I kind of talked myself into like, you know what? He looks so happy. He looks like maybe just a change of scenery can be the thing that unlocks him. And I thought he was going to spread his wings a little bit. I thought he was going to be more, and he's been less. And I'm kind of, it's been something that I have harped on a bunch on the show, and it's like every game, this like the thing I am watching most closely is like, how are they getting DA shots? What does he do when he gets the ball? What does everyone else do? Like, it's a big thing for me. I would say my secondary obsession during this same stretch has been Shaedon Sharpe. Because at the beginning of the year, he was looking so good. So good. He was looking like he was taking this massive, massive leap. He's still getting to the foul line a bunch. His foul rate is way up. You know what superstars do? They drive to the rim and get fouled. He had sort of better rhythm and balance getting into his mid-range arsenal. He was expanding his playmaking game a little bit, showing, more playmaking than he ever had. And then, his role was naturally kind of expanded, and he was doing more and more, and he was struggling a little bit. And I am maybe not as like sort of maniacally obsessed with the Shaedon Sharpe growth, because he's 20 and he hasn't had a ton of NBA seasoning, and it's a non-linear process. So it's going to be good. It's going to be bad. There's peaks and valleys. We're in a valley right now. It is real. Like, he has struggled over the last 10 days or so. The last 7 games, he hasn't been very good. It's not like he's had all stinkers. But it's like tonight he had 10 points and 10 missed field goals. The other night they put the ball in his hands. He turned the ball over 10 times in 3 quarters. Like, he's a young player figuring it out. So, I mean, like most of my, I feel like Deandre Ayton is closer to a finished product. So like, what the heck is more often on sort of the tip of my tongue than with Sharpe, where it's like, yeah, okay. It sometimes it's going to be like this. Mama said there'll be days like this. There'll be days like this. So part of my, I don't know, observation of Sharpe, I was going to say concern, but I don't think it's concern. Part of my observation of Sharpe is that without the shooting from long range, everything else he does is harder. Because if you can go under on screens, his sort of he's not like super explosive, but once he gets momentum downhill, he's so strong that he's hard to deal with. And he doesn't have a super tight handle, so he does kind of need a little bit of runway to get going. Both of those things, like I think his first step can improve a little bit, and I think a handle will help improve his first step, even if it's not athleticism, just like fluidity in getting into it. But I think he's shown this year is that when he can get, particularly the ball in his right hand, and put his left shoulder into folks, like he's strong, and he can jump higher than you and stay in the air longer than you. Like he's special. He's special on the attack. But without the three-point shooting, it gets easier to deal with everything he does, and he's shooting 32% from three this year, 31.7% from three. He's just struggled. The catch-and-shoot stuff has been mostly fine. According to NBA.com's tracking stats, he's shooting around 38% from three on catch-and-shoot three-point attempts. That's good. That's a good number. Catch-and-shoot threes are easier than off-the-dribble threes, and the league average is right around 36% from three. Like he's an above-average shooter, and shooting 38% from on catch-and-shoot is really good. So you got to get him in a role where he can take more catch-and-shoot threes. Malcolm Brogdon returning, Scoot Henderson returning, that helps. That helps. That's going to unlock a better version of Shaedon Sharpe. The other issue with Sharpe is that he's just not finishing around the rim. While he's attacking the rim better, he's getting to the foul line, like he's doing that. That's a big leap. Like the foul rate stuff is a big leap, and it's a big part of his game. It's something, if you're an everyday listener, shout out to my everydayers, like talked about 2 weeks ago. It's like, took a huge leap, and it's like one of the biggest things. The most satisfying part about his game is that he's like gets himself to the rim and gets himself to the foul line, and you can earn easy baskets that way. But he's just not finishing around the rim. 53% of the rim, according to Cleaning the Glass, which is the 18th percentile among combo guards. And you might say, Mike, that sounds like one of those weird percentile stats they might put on the Blazers broadcast that you don't know what it means. And I'll say, yeah. It's in the green. It's not in the green. It's in the red, though, so it probably wouldn't be on the Blazers broadcast. He's finishing worse at the rim than Patrick Beverley. He's finishing worse at the rim than Malachi Flynn. Shaedon can't be a worse layup maker than Pat Bev. That's not gonna fly. Some of the finishing stuff might just be the volume that he was playing. He's playing too many minutes. The Blazers have done a good job of cutting down on his minutes. That was I think a big thing for me. And the Blazers it's clear that they were like 42 is too many. We got to play him a little bit less. And some of that might just be he had a knee issue that kept him out of a game, and he's still dealing with he's still wearing a splint on his thumb. Like, might not be 100%, but here's the thing about the NBA season is unforgiving. It keeps rolling on, and if you play, you're expected to play the best of your abilities. You can get excuses in the back half, but if Shaedon Sharpe's in the game, he's got to make more layups than Pat Bev. That is, some of it is he takes some challenging shots. He's forcing shots because he's like, they just need him to soak up a bunch of offense. I think with Brogdon back and with Jeremy Grant, when Jeremy Grant has it going, they still run too many ISOs for him. But, make those guys and DA, have those guys soak up like the sort of grenade possessions and get Shaedon Sharpe into doing what he does well. Get him catches on the move so he can get to the rim on his right hand, and get him catch and shoot jumpers so he can shoot. Let him get some rhythm. You couldn't do that when they were hurt because he was playing freaking backup point guard minutes and is having a ton of creation responsibilities, and he was struggling with it. Now that they're getting closer to getting healthier, I was going to say whole again. I'm going to cut that out of the language, but getting healthier, they can. I just want them to simplify stuff for Sharpe and get him back into doing the things he does really well. Attack going right, take catch and shoot jumpers. Then everything else, like once you find a rhythm there, everything else will be easier. Teams are still going to press up into him and try to make him beat you off the bounce because his pull-up shooting he's struggled as a pull-up shooter and he doesn't have a super strong handle. If you know what they're going to try to do and force you to do, run stuff that gives you a chance to maximize what you do well. And the Blazers will get a chance to do that against the Utah Jazz on Wednesday. Both teams coming off second night of back-to-back. The Jazz were in LA tonight. They played the Lakers and got thrashed. They lose 131-99. But, we saw this Jazz team last week. They got offense. They can score. The way you beat the Jazz is you score right there with him. The Blazers are the worst offensive team in the league. It's not easy when you say this team's weakness is that they give up buckets when you're not a team that gets buckets. But that's why use DA the right way. Get him to his spots and don't forget about him late in games. Like he wants to catch it middle. Okay, let's see if we can let him catch middle and go to work. Let him catch middle and he's got to move quickly when he catches middle because he's not going to have time and space to do it. Get him on the ball in the left block so he can get to this right hand going to the middle. That's what he wants to do. Get Shaedon Sharpe easier buckets because you're going to get him the ball on the move because he's going to play off ball more and get him catch and shoot opportunities. Malcolm Brogdon, Skylar Mays, get the ducks in a row. See if you can put up a $125 on the Jazz. It's doable. It's there for you. You just got to maximize what you do. It's so crucially important that the Blazers don't have crap possessions because when you're down 9 and the team blows up your initial action and you do not have a secondary action that you can quickly get into, it's crap possessions. The next thing I will watch a lot in the Jazz game, and I challenge you to do the same, is sometimes the Blazers will run a action to say, okay, we're going to run a pin down to get Shaedon Sharpe the ball, and a team will just blow it up. They'll fight around the screen. They won't let him get to the screen cleanly, and then the Blazers will stand around and watch and say, oh, that didn't work. What do we do next? That moment, the stand around, what are we doing next? It can be improved by having better ball handlers who can attack. Malcolm Brogdon says, didn't work, gotta go, and attacks, and then it creates an advantage. When every time it comes back in 3 weeks or whatever it is, same idea. If Scoot comes back, same idea. It's like if the initial stuff doesn't work, particularly against a team that's not very good on defense like Utah, get into your secondary stuff quickly. Run things for your best players that work. Get DA where he the ball where he wants it. Get Shaedon the ball where he wants it. And I guess run Jeremy Grant ISOs because that's what he wants. And then when those things are not available, get into the secondary stuff quick. That's the number one thing I'm going to watch against the Jazz. Hopefully we see a little bit improvement there. But worst offense in the league. It might not get there. Regardless, we will have a show tomorrow talking all things Jazz. You are listening to Wednesday's show. The Jazz Recap Show will come out on Thanksgiving. It's what we do 5 days a week wherever you get podcasts. We'll have a show Friday for you too. So while you're hanging out and not going to work, or if you have to go to work while you're working an extremely difficult job where the rest of the world isn't working, at least you have something to listen to. That's what we do 5 days a week wherever you get podcasts. Also on YouTube. Tell your friends about the program. I appreciate you listening. I'll talk to you soon.